Mark Halston pressed harder on the gas pedal, but the truck's tires only spun in the rising water, churning up a froth of brown mud. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the Everglades levee road in front of him was no more than a shallow river now, stretching flat and gray in every direction. The only sound was the slow tick of rain off the hood and the whirring protest of the engine. "Come on," he muttered, gripping the wheel tighter. "Just a few more miles. Don't do this to me now." The dashboard lights flickered once, then steadied. Mark let out a sharp breath and killed the ignition. The engine had a way of punishing him when he pushed it too far. He sat back against the seat, listening to the rain tapping against the roof, wondering if he should wait it out. But the water was already lapping halfway up the wheels. If it rose much higher, the whole truck would be sitting in the swamp. Damn it! He pulled out his phone. 2 bars flickered, then 1. He dialed his wife. "Lisa, it's me," he said when the call connected. Relief surged in his chest. "Truck stuck on the levee road. I'm fine, just stranded. Might need a tow if this." The call dropped. The dead silence of the swamp rushed back in. Mark stared at the screen, waiting for a bar to return, but the signal was gone. He sighed, shoved the phone in his pocket, and popped the door open. Water pressed against it immediately, cold and brown. He swung his legs down, his boots sinking with a soft sucking sound into mud and silt. The water came up just below his knees, chill enough to send a shiver through him despite the Florida heat still clinging to the air. The swamp around him was endless. A vast sheet of water stretched across sawgrass and mangroves, broken by stands of cypress rising like pillars. The road itself was nothing more than a narrow ridge of gravel and dirt, now barely visible under the flood. Mark rubbed his jaw. "Okay, push her back, get her rolling, maybe I can coax her up to drier ground." He placed both palms against the hood and shoved. The truck didn't budge. He dug his heels in the muck and tried again. His boots slipped, water swirling around his legs. That's when he noticed it. A ripple, not from the rain. The drops left small rings on the surface. This ripple was wide, heavy, as if something large had disturbed the current. It passed just a few yards ahead of him and then vanished. Mark froze. The swamp went unnaturally quiet, as though the insects themselves were listening. "Gator," he whispered to himself. He'd seen plenty in the canals near Miami and on jobs out west by the levees. But this ripple seemed different. Too smooth, too long. He shook it off and pressed harder against the truck. The horn gave a dull groan as his hip bumped the wheel inside. The sound carried far into the wet silence. Another ripple. Closer this time. Mark's throat tightened. He turned slowly, scanning the water. Nothing but reeds bending in the wind. He forced a laugh under his breath. "Spooking yourself, Halston. It's nothing." Still, he couldn't shake the weight of being watched. The back of his neck prickled. He told himself to keep moving, to get the truck free before the rain came back, but every muscle resisted. Finally, he shoved again, harder this time. The truck shifted an inch, maybe 2. He pressed forward, grunting, water splashing up to his thighs. And then something brushed his boot. He jerked back, nearly slipping. Son of a... It hadn't felt like a log. Not like debris drifting in the current. Whatever it was had muscle. Intent. Mark's heartbeat pounded in his ears. He scanned the water again. Just the same empty surface. Just the same murky current. His hand went instinctively to his pocket. Phone still dead. He thought about climbing back into the truck and locking the doors. But what then? Wait hours? Days? The levee roads weren't exactly highways. Someone might not pass for a long while. He swallowed and forced himself to laugh again, though it came out dry. Probably a fish. Big one, sure, but just a fish. He placed his hands back on the hood. He needed to keep moving, but the swamp wouldn't let him. A pale shape slid beneath the surface, slow and deliberate, just within his peripheral vision. He turned sharply, and it was gone, but his stomach dropped. That wasn't a gator. That wasn't a fish. It was long. Too long. Mark gritted his teeth and pushed harder. "Come on, damn it. Move." The truck inched backward, tires squealing in protest. Water splashed up higher around him. His boots sank deeper. His muscles burned with effort. The silence broke. A sudden splash erupted just beyond the reeds. Mark spun. The water boiled, then stilled again. His chest tightened. He tried to convince himself it was nothing, but he couldn't lie to himself anymore. Something was out there. Something big. He stumbled back toward the cab, fumbling for the handle. His hands were slick with rainwater and mud. The door creaked open. He climbed halfway inside, pulling one leg up out of the water when the truck shifted slightly, rocking. The sensation froze him. The vehicle wasn't sinking. It was being nudged. He peered down through the open door. The water lapped against the tires, brown and opaque, but beneath it he caught the faintest glimpse of movement. A coil, thick as a fence post, sliding past his boot. Mark's breath hitched. He slammed the door shut and locked it out of instinct, though he knew locks wouldn't stop what he'd just seen. Inside the cab, silence pressed around him. He gripped the wheel with trembling hands, staring out at the sheet of water. Something heavy shifted outside, just beyond his line of sight. A ripple rolled across the surface again, slower this time. Deliberate. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He yanked it out. One bar. He dialed 911 with shaking hands. The ring never finished. The signal dropped. Mark slammed the phone against the dashboard. God damn it. He slumped against the seat, heart racing, trying to think. Stay in the truck, or get out and make a run along the road. Higher ground not far ahead. A shadow passed against the window. Long, muscular, moving with purpose. Mark held his breath. The shadow slid back under the water and was gone. He whispered to himself, voice trembling. It's just one. Just one. You can outlast it. The horn blared suddenly, loud and sharp. His hand must have brushed it in his panic. The sound carried for miles across the swamp. The water outside rippled violently. Something surged beneath the surface, racing toward the truck. Mark's eyes went wide as he realized. He wasn't waiting it out. Whatever was out there had already chosen him. The truck rocked. Not like a wave hitting, not like a gust of wind. Something heavy had shoved it. Mark gripped the wheel with white knuckles, his throat dry as paper. He wanted to believe it was his imagination, but the second jolt came harder. The vehicle tilted slightly, tires groaning against the mud below. No, he whispered, shaking his head. No, no, no. Then the water beside the driver's side door erupted. A thick, muscular coil slapped against the metal with a force that dented it inward. The impact rattled the glass. Mark screamed, fumbling for the handle. The python didn't give him a choice. The coil slid down, searching, then looped around his boot where it still dangled out of the cab. The pressure was immediate, like steel cable snapping taut. Jesus Christ, he shouted, thrashing. He yanked his leg back with all his strength. The snake only tightened, dragging him toward the open water. Mark clawed at the seat, the steering wheel, anything he could grab. The cab became a cage of useless plastic and metal. Let go, he roared, half plea, half command, as though words could change nature's mind. The python surged backward with terrifying strength. Mark's hips slammed against the doorframe. He felt the bones in his ankle grind under the coil's crushing grip. His free boot slipped on the slick floorboard. With a desperate growl, he reached down and kicked with his other foot, heel slamming again and again into the thick band of muscle. It was like kicking rubber fire hose. Useless. The snake pulled again. Mark's body slid out of the truck and into the cold floodwater. He gasped as the swamp swallowed him to the waist. Help! Somebody, help! He shouted into the emptiness. His voice cracked, echoing weak across the flat horizon. No one answered. The python struck again, faster than thought. Its second coil lashed across his thigh, clamping like a vice. Then another. Mark's legs were bound together in seconds, his body cinched in crushing bands. No, no. He beat at it with his fists, hammering the ridged scales. Each punch landed dull, powerless. The snake yanked him deeper, pulling him down until water filled his mouth. He sputtered, thrashing, kicking, trying to keep his head above the surface. Air. He needed air. He clawed upward, grabbing the side mirror of his truck. His fingertips hooked it. He hauled his chest above water, coughing violently. Get off me. Get off. The python's head rose out of the murk for the first time. Wedge-shaped, blunt, eyes like dark marbles. It opened its mouth wide, pink flesh, curved teeth flashing. The hiss was low and monstrous, vibrating through his ribs. Mark froze, terror rooting him to the spot. The sheer size of it was incomprehensible. Longer than the truck, thicker than his waist. "No," he croaked, eyes wide. "God, no." The python struck. Its jaws clamped around his forearm, teeth puncturing deep. White-hot pain seared up to his shoulder. Mark screamed, high and ragged. He swung his free arm blindly, fist connecting with the snake's head. It didn't flinch. The coils only tightened, squeezing until his ribs screamed and his lungs fought for space. "Let me go," he roared again, though his voice was hoarse now, strangled. The python dragged him lower, his chin barely above the waterline. He thrashed his head side to side, spitting swamp water. Panic flooded him, cold and absolute. Through the haze of fear, one thought cut sharp: the horn. If he could hit the horn again, maybe, just maybe, someone would hear. He twisted his body, ignoring the agony of his crushed ribs. The snake shifted with him, coils grinding against his chest. With a last, desperate lunge, he slammed his elbow down on the steering wheel inside the cab. The horn blared. The sound ripped across the swamp, long and desperate. The python recoiled slightly at the noise, enough for Mark to wrench his bleeding arm from its jaws. He gasped in air, every breath a knife. But the coils didn't loosen. They tightened. "Please," he cried out, voice cracking, tears mixing with the swamp water on his face. "Please, someone." The python shifted its body, dragging him fully into the open water now. His grip on the truck slipped. His body slammed against the side, then was pulled clear into the flood. Mark's mind screamed in primal terror. He flailed, punching, clawing, scratching its scales slick as wet leather. Nothing gave. The snake pulled him under. Murky brown swallowed his vision. The world became pressure, pain, and silence. He opened his mouth to scream, water rushing in. His chest convulsed, burning. Somewhere in the chaos, his boot struck metal. The truck's bumper. He grabbed it, clutching with every ounce of strength left in him, refusing to be dragged deeper. The python fought, tugging him back, but Mark wedged his fingers into the bumper's seam and held on. He kicked wildly, boot heels crashing against its coils. The snake twisted, trying to peel him away. His lungs screamed for air. His vision darkened at the edges. With one final surge of desperation, he pushed off the bumper, twisting his body with everything he had. Something tore, the coil around his ankle slipping loose for a fraction of a second. He broke the surface. Air tore into his chest in ragged gasps. He coughed violently, hacking swamp water, his throat raw. For a brief, miraculous moment, the python's coils loosened just enough. Mark clawed at them, ripping his leg free. He scrambled, half swimming, half crawling, back toward the truck. He slammed against the driver's side door, gripping the handle like it was the last solid thing on earth. He dragged himself up, blood streaking down his arm, gasping, shaking. The python lingered just below the surface, head breaking water only once, eyes fixed on him like a judge waiting for the verdict. Then it slid back under, silent as a nightmare. Mark slumped against the truck, shaking uncontrollably, chest heaving. He whispered, voice cracked and broken, "It's not done. It's not done with me." His gaze drifted across the horizon, hoping, praying, that the horn had carried far enough, that someone had heard, because alone, he knew he wouldn't last another round. The horn's wail had carried farther than Mark realized. Miles away, Cole Ramirez sat at the helm of his airboat, the propeller winding down as he cut the engine. He'd been patrolling a familiar canal, keeping an eye out for pythons along the levee edges. The sound had reached him faint at first, then again, sharper, unmistakable. He adjusted his cap, leaning forward, listening. "That's not a gator hunter's call," he muttered to himself. "That's trouble." Cole had grown up in Homestead, third-generation Floridian, and he knew the Everglades like the lines on his palms. Trouble had a sound here. He'd learned to recognize it. The shriek of a hawk when a gator raided a nest, the eerie hush before a thunderhead split the sky, and now, the long, desperate cry of a truck horn cutting through flooded silence. He started the prop again and swung the airboat toward the sound. Mark barely kept himself conscious. His whole body trembled as he slumped against the truck, water dripping from his hair, blood seeping down his arm in thin red trails. His chest burned with each shallow breath. He glanced at his phone. Dead black screen. The battery had given out. A sob rose in his throat, but he bit it back. If he broke now, he was finished. He forced himself to breathe, to listen. Somewhere, faint over the steady hiss of water and insects, came a new sound. A hum, low and mechanical, growing louder. Mark's eyes widened. "Please," he whispered. He scrambled to his knees, clambering onto the hood of the truck, waving his arms. "Here, over here." The airboat appeared from behind a stand of cypress, its prop throwing spray. A man stood at the bow, steady as stone despite the shifting water. Rugged, middle-aged, with a sharp gaze that cut through the distance. He raised a hand in acknowledgement as the boat drew closer. When the airboat slid to a stop, Cole Ramirez killed the engine and called out, his voice calm but commanding. "You all right, friend?" Mark almost laughed at the absurdity of the question. His chest hurt too much to manage more than a hoarse shout. "No, it's in the water. A python, big, huge, tried to kill me." Cole studied him, expression unreadable. He'd heard men exaggerate before, but the tremor in Mark's voice wasn't the kind you faked. His eyes shifted to the water, scanning the ripples. "Stay put," Cole said firmly. He stepped from a boat into the knee-deep flood, moving with practiced care. A rifle rested against his shoulder, the kind hunters in the challenge often carried. Mark clutched his bleeding arm and forced the words out between gasps. "It had grabbed me, pulled me under, crushed my ribs. His voice broke. "I thought I was dead." Cole reached him and steadied him by the shoulder. His touch was strong but gentle. "Easy. Breathe. You're hurt but alive. That's what matters. Now listen." He crouched, eyes on the water. "If it's still here, we don't want to give it another chance." Mark's hands shook as he pointed at the reeds. "It's in there. I saw it. Biggest damn snake I've ever." "You're not wrong," Cole interrupted, his tone quiet but grim. "I've been hunting these things for years. From the way you describe it, that's no ordinary python. That's a record breaker." Mark's stomach twisted. You believe me?" Cole met his eyes with steady calm. "I don't doubt you for a second. These snakes don't let go unless they're forced. If you're standing here, it's because you fought harder than most men could." Mark swallowed hard, caught off guard by the respect in Cole's voice. Cole rose, scanning the reeds again, rifle raised. "You got two choices. I can load you on my boat and get you out of here. Or I can stay, see this through. If I leave it, somebody else might not be as lucky as you were." Mark's breath caught. You're saying you'd fight it?" Cole's jaw set. "That's what I came out here to do. Every python I take down means fewer deer swallowed whole, fewer gators mangled, fewer folks like you nearly killed. It's why I signed up for the challenge. Why I've been doing this for 10 years. Mark stared at him, disbelief mingled with awe. "You're insane." Cole gave a wry smile. "Maybe, but better me than you." The water rippled, wide and deliberate. Both men froze. Cole's voice dropped low, calm but urgent. "Get back on the hood. Don't move unless I tell you." Mark scrambled up, clutching the truck's mirror. His pulse thundered. The python surfaced. Its head broke the water with eerie silence, massive body undulating behind it. The scales gleamed wet, patterned in mottled browns and golds. Its eyes fixed on Cole, unblinking. Mark's breath hitched. "That's it. That's the monster." Cole didn't flinch. He raised the rifle, sighting down the barrel. His voice was steady, almost a whisper. "You've taken enough, old boy. Time's up." The python lunged. Cole fired. The shot cracked across the swamp. Water exploded where the bullet struck, but the python twisted too fast, the shot glancing off its thick neck. "Damn," Cole muttered, racking another round. The snake surged forward, body like a tidal wave. Mark screamed from the hood, "Shoot it again! Kill it!" Cole held his ground, waiting, patient. He'd learned long ago never to waste a shot in panic. But the python struck faster than he expected. A coil lashed out of the water, wrapping around his waist. The rifle flew from his hands, splashing into the flood. Mark's eyes went wide. "No." Cole grunted, teeth gritted as the coil cinched tight. "Not today," he hissed. His hand darted to his belt, drawing a heavy hunting knife. The blade gleamed silver as he drove it down into the python's muscle. The snake writhed, thrashing. Water erupted around them. Cole sawed at the thick flesh, red blooming through the murk. "Go," he barked to Mark, voice raw with strain. "If I don't walk out, you run. Don't you dare waste what I'm giving you." Mark's throat closed. I can't just." "You can, and you will." Cole roared, his voice filled with command, with the weight of a man who'd faced death before and never flinched. He slashed again, blade sinking deep. The python convulsed, releasing him just enough for air to fill his lungs. But its coils struck again, crushing his abdomen, squeezing with inexorable force. Cole gasped, blood dripping from his lips, but his eyes burned fierce. He shoved the knife into the python's side once more, twisting. Mark clung to the hood, tears streaming, torn between terror and awe. The hunter's voice carried over the chaos, ragged but resolute. "You tell them, you hear me? Tell them I fought. Tell them I didn't give it my back." Then the python dragged him under. The water boiled, red and violet. Mark screamed his name into the emptiness. For a long, breathless moment, there was only silence. Then Cole's body surfaced, limp, bloodied, but the python slipped back into the reeds, vanishing as though it had never been. Mark slid down from the hood, splashing tea. Howard him, chest heaving with sobs. He grabbed Cole under the arms, dragging him up against the truck side. "Don't you die on me," he cried, voice breaking. "Don't you dare leave me here alone." Cole's eyelids fluttered, his lips curved in the faintest pained smile. "Still here for now." His voice was a whisper, but it carried all the weight of a man unafraid. Mark pressed Cole against the side of the truck, trying to keep his head above water. The hunter's breathing came in sharp, uneven bursts. Blood seeped through his shirt, dark patches spreading across the fabric. His knife hand still trembled, slick with crimson. "Stay with me," Mark begged, voice raw. "You're not dying here. Not like this." Cole coughed, spitting red into the murk. His dark eyes locked on Mark's. "I've seen worse. Just need a minute." A lie. Mark could hear it in the weakening rasp of his voice. Before Mark could respond, the water behind them shifted. Slow at first, then stronger, the reeds parting with unnatural force. Cole's grip tightened suddenly around Mark's wrist. "Listen." His tone turned sharp, commanding despite the blood loss. "It isn't finished. That thing doesn't leave its prey alive. Not until one of you is cold." Mark's stomach dropped. No, I can't. You don't get to choose." Cole cut in, his jaw clenched. "You either fight or you feed it." The surface broke. The python rose again, its massive head cresting the water, eyes fixed like twin pits of tar. Its body curved in an endless coil behind it, sliding forward with terrifying patience. Mark felt every instinct scream at him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. He clutched Cole tighter, shaking his head violently. "We can't fight that. We need to hide, get to your boat." Cole barked a laugh, grim and bitter. "Boat's too far. You try to run, it'll drag us both under. This ends here." The python surged closer. Mark screamed, "Shoot it! You have a gun." Cole's voice cut him off like a blade. "Rifle's gone. Knife's all that's left." Mark's chest heaved. His eyes darted to the knife still in Cole's bloody grip. "Then give it to me." Cole's expression softened, just for a flicker. "Son, you don't have the arm for this fight. But you can run, and you can live." The python lashed forward. Water exploded around them. Cole shoved Mark back against the truck with a sudden burst of strength. "Stay clear." The snake's coil struck, wrapping around Cole's chest and midsection, jerking him away from Mark's grasp. Cole grunted, teeth bared, as the crushing force clamped down. "No!" Mark screamed, reaching helplessly. Cole's blade flashed. He drove it deep into the snake's body, sawing, hacking. The python thrashed, churning the swamp into a storm of mud and water. "You want me?" Cole growled through clenched teeth. Then choke on me. Mark climbed onto the hood, heart hammering, screaming incoherently at the sight of the man's brutal struggle. The python coiled tighter, squeezing the air from Cole's lungs. His knife arm shook, slowing. Mark couldn't stand it. "I'm not leaving you," he shouted. "We can do this together." "Shut up," Cole roared back, eyes blazing. "You listen to me, Halston. You don't get to throw my death away because you're scared. If you walk out of here alive, you carry my story with you. You understand?" Mark's voice cracked. "I can't." "You can." Cole spat blood, eyes locked on Mark's. "Because if you don't, it'll take more than just us. It'll take your wife, your kids, anyone unlucky enough to drive this road. You hear me? Someone's got to warn them. Someone's got to stand." The python lunged again, jaws snapping inches from Cole's throat. He jammed the knife between its fangs, forcing its head back. His muscles bulged with the strain, every tendon in his neck standing out. Mark wept openly, torn apart. "You'll die." Cole's smile was faint but fierce. "Then I'll die like a man should, fighting for the living." The python shifted, coils wrapping higher, crushing ribs with audible cracks. Cole gasped, blood spurting from his lips. His arm faltered, knife slipping. "Run," he bellowed, voice shaking the air. "Now!" The snake struck. Mark's scream ripped his throat raw as Cole was dragged into the water, swallowed by a violent explosion of spray. For a moment, Mark saw his arm above the surface, blade still clenched, stabbing blindly into the python's flesh. Then it was gone. Silence, except for the ripples rolling outward. Mark staggered on the hood of the truck, chest heaving, staring at the water. His mind screamed at him to jump in, to drag Cole back, but his body locked in terror. He could still hear the words echoing in his head. "You run. You carry the story." Minutes passed. The swamp seemed to breathe again. Insects resumed their chorus, but the python was nowhere in sight. Mark slid to his knees on the hood, sobbing. "God, no, not like this." A shape surfaced. Cole's body floated up limp, pale. The knife was still clenched in his hand. Mark scrambled down, splashing to him, dragging the broken man back to the truck. He hauled Cole upright against the dented door, pressing a trembling hand to his chest. "Come on, breathe, damn it. Don't let that thing win." Cole's eyelids fluttered weakly. His lips parted. A faint whisper escaped. "Still here." Mark's tears blurred everything. "Hold on. Please hold on." Cole coughed, a thin trickle of blood staining his chin. His gaze softened, almost peaceful now. "Don't cry for me. Cry for the land if we lose it. Cry for the ones who won't see it coming. But don't waste tears on me." Mark shook his head violently. No, you're not done. You can't be." Cole's hand found Mark's wrist again, weak but steady. "Promise me you'll fight. Promise me you won't let it all be for nothing." Mark choked on his words. I promise." A faint smile touched Cole's lips. His hand slipped from Mark's wrist, falling limp into the water. Mark held him, sobbing, as the swamp swallowed the last warmth from the hunter's body. Behind them, the reeds shifted again. A ripple rolled across the water, wide and deliberate. The python wasn't finished. Mark Halston stumbled along the flooded levee road, every step weighted by exhaustion and grief. The early light of dawn broke weakly through the swamp fog, painting the world in silvery hues. His clothes were soaked, his arms scraped raw, but the worst wounds sat deeper, an ache that burned behind his ribs. Cole's last words haunted him. "Promise me you'll fight." Mark clutched the hunter's knife in his trembling hand, the only piece of Cole he could carry. The blade was heavy, not with weight, but with meaning. Every time Mark glanced down at it, his chest tightened. The swamp pressed in with its silence. No croaking frogs, no rustle of gators. Even the birds seemed hushed, as though the land itself held its breath. And then, far off, the faint whoop 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 of an airboat engine. Mark froze, heart hammering. His eyes darted to the horizon, where the mist began to shred apart. A low, flat silhouette skimmed across the water, weaving through stands of cypress like a dragonfly on glass. Hope flared in his chest, violent and desperate. He staggered forward, splashing, waving both arms. "Hey, over here! Help!" The engine roared louder. The boat swung toward him, closing fast. Spray fanned behind its propeller, glinting in the newborn sun. As it slowed, Mark saw the pilot clearly. A woman in her 30s, sun-browned skin, sharp eyes hidden beneath a billed cap. She wore a sleeveless vest over a faded shirt, and slung across her back was a long, battered rifle. She eased the throttle, coasting the airboat near. Her voice carried sharp and clear. "You lost or just crazy walking this road at dawn?" Mark nearly collapsed into the water. Please, you have to help me. There's a snake. A python. It took my friend." Her expression tightened. She cut the engine, letting the boat glide until it bumped gently against the road's submerged edge. Rising, she stepped lightly onto the metal deck, boots steady, gaze locked on him. "Name's Lisa Navarro," she said, crisp but not unkind. "Local guide, volunteer hunter. Start over, slow this time." "What happened?" Mark swallowed hard. His throat burned from screaming all night. "Cole Jensen, a hunter. He tried to save me. That monster, 30 feet, maybe more, dragged him under." His voice cracked. "He's gone. I couldn't stop it." Lisa's eyes softened. She nodded slowly, as if confirming something already known. "Cole was a stubborn bastard, brave as they come." Mark blinked, stunned. "You knew him well enough. Everyone out here knows everyone. And everyone knew Cole didn't run from a fight." She studied Mark's blood-streaked shirt, the knife trembling in his hand. "Looks like he bought you time." Mark's knees buckled, the weight of guilt pressing down again. He muttered, almost to himself, "And I wasted it. I froze. I didn't." Lisa cut him off firmly, her voice edged with steel. "Don't do that. You stood where a python came at you, and you're still breathing. That means you didn't waste a damn thing." Mark's chest heaved. He wanted to argue, but her words struck something raw in him. Something Cole had said too. "Don't waste tears on me. Cry for the land if we lose it." Lisa extended her hand. "Come on. Boat's safer than standing here, waiting for round 2. Mark hesitated, staring at her calloused palm, then finally took it. She hauled him aboard with surprising strength. The boat rocked gently beneath them. Lisa crouched, unslinging her rifle, checking the chamber with brisk efficiency. "You said 30 feet? At least. God, it was huge. Like a nightmare. I've never seen." "I have." Lisa's voice was quiet now, but firm. "Pythons don't stop growing if they got food. And out here, they've got plenty." Mark shivered, hugging himself. "Then why the hell isn't anyone stopping them?" Lisa met his gaze, steady. "That's why I'm here. That's why Cole was out here too. Some folks fight back. But it's a war, and the swamp's bigger than we are." Mark's throat tightened. "Cole, he said the same. He said if I didn't carry his story, others would die. And now he's counting on me." Lisa studied him, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded once. "Then let's make sure his death isn't just another headline." For a moment, silence settled between them, broken only by the creak of the airboat against the road. Then Lisa cranked the engine, the roar splitting the air. She spun the wheel, steering them out into the swamp. Mark clung to the railing, the wind whipping tears from his eyes. The vast wetlands stretched endlessly, water gleaming between endless green. Somewhere out there, the python still slid unseen beneath the surface. Lisa shouted over the engine. "First rule, you don't panic. You panic, you're dead. You think clear, you fight smart." "Got it." Mark nodded, gripping the knife tighter. "Second rule, you don't underestimate it. Snake's not hunting for sport. It's hungry. And once it's marked this road as feeding ground, it'll come back. Again and again." Mark's get twisted. So what do we do?" Lisa's eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon. "We set the terms. We don't wait for it to come to us. We go to it. And we finish this." The words sent a chill through him. He stared at her, stunned. You mean to kill it? That thing? Alone?" "Not alone," she said simply, glancing at him. "With me." Mark shook his head. I'm not Cole. I don't have your training or his courage." Lisa throttled down suddenly, bringing the boat to a slow drift. The swamp hushed around them again. She turned, fixing him with a steady, piercing gaze. You stood face to face with that monster, and you're still standing here talking to me. Don't you dare say you don't have courage. You didn't come out here looking for a fight, but the fight found you. And you lived. That makes you part of this whether you like it or not. Mark's chest rose and fell, fast and uneven. He wanted to argue, but her words rang true in his bones. Finally, he whispered, I promised him I'd fight, but I don't even know how. Lisa placed a hand on his shoulder, steady, grounding. That's what I'm here for. The two locked eyes, and for the first time since Cole's death, Mark felt something that wasn't just despair. A fragile, dangerous spark of purpose. The swamp rippled suddenly beside them. Both heads snapped toward the sound. A swirl of bubbles rose, then popped, leaving only silence. Lisa lifted the rifle, scanning. It knows we're here, she muttered. Mark's grip tightened on the knife. His stomach turned, but he forced the words out. Then let's make sure it knows we're not running. Lisa's lips curved into the faintest smile. That's the spirit. The airboat roared back to life, propeller churning white spray into the dawn. Together, they pushed deeper into the swamp, toward a reckoning neither could escape. The airboat skimmed across the water like a skipping stone. Cypress knees jutted from the shallows, pale and gnarled in the early light. Spanish moss draped the branches above, shifting with the wind like ragged curtains. Mark sat rigid on the bench, one hand gripping the rail, the other clutching Cole's knife. The hum of the propeller filled his skull, leaving too much room for thoughts he didn't want. Cole's last gasp, the snap of his ribs, the swirl of bloody water. Lisa guided the boat with steady hands, her eyes scanning the horizon. She looked as though she'd done this 1,000 times, confident, efficient, her body moving with the rhythm of the swamp. Finally, she throttled down. The roar eased into silence, replaced by the buzz of cicadas and the occasional croak of frogs. The boat drifted to a stop in a shaded cove. We'll hold here, Lisa said, stepping off onto a half-submerged hummock of mud and reeds. She moved with practiced grace, balancing like it was solid ground. Too risky to keep moving without a plan. Mark followed clumsily, boots sinking into muck. He winced at the squelch. Feels like quicksand. Lisa smirked faintly. That's swamp mud. Get used to it. Out here, everything's designed to slow you down, while something else gets the upper hand. Mark looked around uneasily. Every ripple felt like a threat, every shadow a lurking coil. You've done this before, hunted them. Lisa crouched, setting down her rifle and unrolling a waterproof pack. Inside were coils of rope, a machete, a first aid kit, and a small tackle box bristling with improvised gear. Too many times. State pays a bounty if you bring him in alive, but I don't bother. Big ones like the one you saw, better to kill than risk. Her tone was steady, almost casual, but Mark caught a flicker in her eyes when she said it. Not just professionalism, something personal. He crouched opposite her, trying to focus. So how do we stop it? That thing was unstoppable. Cole stabbed it, and it still kept coming. Lisa's hands moved briskly, sorting gear. You don't fight it head-on, not if you can help it. You wear it down. Trap it. Pin it. Hit where it hurts. Mark swallowed. And if you can't, Lisa looked him dead in the eye. Then you pray you don't blink first. The silence that followed felt heavy. Mark stared down at the knife in his hands, its blade dulled and nicked from Cole's desperate strikes. He tried to picture himself using it the way Cole had, facing down a monster, stabbing until the last breath. His hands trembled. Lisa noticed. She reached into the pack and pulled out a shorter blade, cleaner, balanced. She held it out to him. Here, Cole's knife did its job, but this one'll serve you better if you need it. Mark stared at it, reluctant. I'm not. Lisa's voice hardened. Take it. You're not out here as dead weight. You made a promise. Time to start carrying it. Mark hesitated, then slowly exchanged blades, feeling the new knife's weight. It fit his grip better, lighter, but sharper. Lisa gave a curt nod, satisfied. Good. Now, first lesson. Python doesn't think like you. Doesn't scare like you. It's patient, stronger than you'll ever be, and it's been perfecting its hunt for millions of years. You don't beat it with brute force. You beat it by knowing when to move and when to hold. Mark frowned. Like chess. Lisa allowed a thin smile. Exactly like chess. Except if you lose a piece out here, it's not wood, it's your arm. Despite himself, Mark let out a shaky laugh. It came out half like a sob. Lisa didn't flinch at the sound. She went on, pointing at the swamp water. It'll use cover, vegetation, shadows, even your fear. When it strikes, you won't see it coming until it's too late. That's why you don't just watch the water, you listen to it. Every splash, every silence. The swamp tells you where it is. Mark tilted his head, trying. The swamp hummed and buzzed alive with sound. But underneath, he thought he heard something deeper, a slow ripple, maybe too deliberate to be wind. His stomach tightened. Lisa saw his expression. Good, you're starting to tune in. Mark turned to her, voice low. How did you get into this? You don't look like... you don't seem like someone who'd spend their life fighting snakes. Lisa's jaw tightened, gaze distant. She busied herself with tying the rope. Lost a cousin to one when I was 16. Kid just vanished while fishing. They found what was left a week later. Mark's throat constricted. God, I am sorry. Lisa's eyes flicked to him, sharp and unwavering. Don't be sorry. Be useful. That's what he'd have wanted. That's why I'm still here, still fighting. The words hit Mark like a hammer, so close to Cole's own. Don't cry for me. Cry for the land if we lose it. Mark nodded slowly. Then I'll fight too. I don't know how much good I'll be, but I'll try. Lisa studied him for a long moment. Her stern expression softened just slightly. That's all Cole would have asked. The swamp suddenly stirred. A deep ripple rolled across the cove, bending reeds as if something massive had passed beneath. Both froze. Lisa snatched up her rifle, eyes scanning. It's close. Mark's heart pounded. How can you tell? She didn't look at him. Because it's not hiding anymore. It wants us to know it's here. Mark's grip tightened on the knife. His legs felt like lead. Then what do we do? Lisa leveled her rifle at the water, lips pressed tight. We get ready. The fight's coming whether we want it or not. The swamp stilled again, the ripple fading. Lisa exhaled slowly, lowering the gun. Not yet. It's testing us. Seeing how we'll react. She turned to Mark. You don't flinch. You don't run. You stand your ground. That's how you earn its respect, and how you survive. Mark's breath shook, but he nodded. I'll stand. Lisa gave him a sharp nod. Good. Lesson 2's over. Next time it won't be practice. She packed the gear again, movements swift, efficient. Mark watched her, a growing respect gnawing through his fear. Lisa Navarro wasn't just a guide. She was a soldier in a war most people didn't even know was being fought. And now, whether he liked it or not, so was he. As they prepared to move again, Mark felt the weight of Cole's promise settle in him. Not as a burden this time, but as a fire. The swamp had taken too much already. He wasn't going to let it take Lisa or himself without a fight. The airboat roared back to life, carrying them deeper into the swamp's shadowed heart. And somewhere below, in the black water, coils shifted with ancient patience, waiting. The airboat slid into a narrow channel, reeds scraping the hull like fingernails. Mist clung to the water's surface, thick and gray, twisting the swamp into shadows. Mark's knuckles whitened around the knife handle. Lisa sat at the bow, rifle poise. Ed, scanning every ripple. Her eyes narrowed, practiced calm. This is it, she whispered. This section of levee is its hunting ground. We go slow, stay silent, and wait for it to show itself. Understand? Mark swallowed hard, voice tight. Yeah, I understand. Good. Lisa's hand moved to a coil of rope. If it comes at us, you cut it, hook it, or drive the knife home. You don't hesitate. Hesitation out here kills faster than a snake. Mark nodded again. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, not just for his life, but for the promise he made to Cole. For several minutes, silence ruled, broken only by the propeller's hum and distant croaks of frogs. The swamp felt alive, watching, waiting. Mark's nerves throbbed. Every splash of water, every whisper of reeds, sent his heart into overdrive. Then, a ripple, a slow, deliberate swell behind a half-submerged cypress. Mark froze. Lisa's hand tightened on her rifle. There it is. Mark's stomach dropped. He caught his first full glimpse of it, just the head breaking the surface. Massive, wedge-shaped, eyes black as tar, watching them. Its body coiled beneath, too thick to measure. Mark's voice cracked. It's huge. Lisa's gaze didn't waver. You're thinking about size. Don't. You're thinking strategy. Follow my lead. Ready? Mark nodded, gripping the knife like a lifeline. Lisa eased the airbow forward slow, careful. The python's head lifted slightly, tilting as if studying them. Mark could see the water sliding off its scales, smooth, wet, reflective. It was patient, calculating. Lisa whispered, Mark, position yourself on the starboard side. I'll draw its attention. You watch for the coils, then strike where I tell you. Mark's jaw tightened. Got it. She leveled her rifle, taking careful aim, then paused. Wait for my signal now. She fired a shot into the water just ahead of the python. A geyser of spray erupted, startling it. The snake lunged, not directly, but side to side, testing, striking toward Lisa's motion. Now, Lisa shouted. Mark swung the knife forward, plunging it into the water where the python's head had arched. He struck blindly, adrenaline surging. The blade sank into thick muscle. The snake hissed, a terrifying sound that vibrated through Mark's chest. Lisa fired again, louder this time, cracking the air. The python recoiled, but not fully. It struck again, coils lashing toward the boat. Watch the tail. Lisa barked. Mark twisted, dodging a thick coil that shot past him, smashing into the airboat's side with bone-shaking force. He swung the knife again, hitting something hard. The coil writhed, resisting, crushing the metal railing as he struck repeatedly. Cut the rope. Lisa snapped. She yanked a hook from the deck and flung it into the water, snagging a coil around the python's midsection. The snake thrashed violently, twisting the boat in the current. Mark's arms screamed with the effort of holding the knife, driving it again and again into the snake's thick muscle. Each strike made the creature writhe and hiss, its power undeniable. Lisa shouted over the chaos. Mark, get the second coil. Push down while I pull. He scrambled, struggling against the weight, adrenaline burning through his veins. He jammed the knife into the next coil, using leverage to force it downward. The python's body bulged, scales slick, glistening. It lashed again, but the combined effort of the rope, Lisa, and Mark's strikes kept it pinned. Just barely. Mark's chest heaved, muscles screaming. I can't keep this up forever. Lisa's eyes locked on his. You don't have to. Just hold it. Don't let it get free. The python thrashed harder, a wave of power that nearly knocked Mark into the water. He slammed the knife into the creature's body again, desperate. Pain exploded in his arm as the blade bent slightly against thick muscle. Lisa didn't flinch. She yanked the rope with every ounce of strength she had, balancing on the slippery deck, sweat and water dripping from her brow. It's weakening. Keep at it. Mark gritted his teeth. He felt Cole's voice echoing in his mind. You carry the story. You fight. Another strike. Another. He drove the knife into the snake's side again, feeling it quiver. The hissing grew frantic, less controlled, almost panicked. The python's head whipped toward him, eyes burning with pure instinct. Mark froze for a heartbeat, terror clawing at him. You're fine, Lisa yelled, firing another shot to its side. Move. Don't give a chance. Mark pivoted, blade sinking again, this time through the loosened coil. The snake thrashed, hissing, jerking violently, but something was different. The strength seemed to ebb slightly. Lisa shouted, one more time. Together. Mark swung with every ounce of energy left in him, stabbing the thick body. Lisa pulled the rope tight. The python let out a final hiss, thrashing as it struggled, then slowly began to slacken under their combined weight. Mark dropped the knife for a moment, panting, heart hammering. Is it done? Lisa's hand stayed firm on the rope, eyes scanning the water. Slowly, she nodded. For now, it's restrained enough, but it's not gone. It'll remember this, and it'll be back. Mark sank to his knees on the boat deck, chest heaving. I actually did it. Lisa crouched beside him, a rare smile breaking her otherwise serious face. You actually did it. and you're still standing. That's courage, Mark. Real courage. Not panic, not luck, courage. Mark's throat closed with emotion. I keep thinking about Cole. He would have been proud. Lisa's eyes softened. He is proud? That's why you're here, alive, fighting. Mark glanced at the restrained python, coils still writhing, eyes bright and calculating. He swallowed hard, shuddering. It's terrifying. I don't think I can ever unsee this. Lisa placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. You don't have to unsee it. You need to remember it. Every moment you're out here, you learn, and you fight smarter. Mark nodded, trying to calm his shaking hands. What happens now? Lisa's gaze swept the swamp, calculating. Now we rest, patch up, and plan the final move. That snake won't give up, and neither can we. Tomorrow, we decide if we end this for good, or if it drags us into the swamp with it. Mark's stomach tightened. Fear was still there, but beneath it, something else had started to grow. Determination. Tomorrow, he said quietly, gripping the knife again. Tomorrow, we finish this. Lisa gave him a firm nod. Tomorrow, we finish. Above them, the swamp lay still, the morning sun glinting off the water. But beneath the surface, something moved, coiled, waiting, patient, calculating. The battle had only just begun. Night had fallen over the Everglades, heavy and silent. The moon barely pierced the canopy, leaving the swamp in deep, shifting shadows. Mark and Lisa navigated the narrow waterway in the airboat, every sound amplified in the darkness. The splash of water against cypress knees, the distant croak of a bullfrog, the rustle of unseen movement. Mark gripped the knife tightly in one hand, the other clutching the edge of the boat. His muscles ached from the day's effort, but adrenaline kept him taut, alert. Lisa's eyes scanned the shadows, rifle ready. We know it's here, she whispered. It's been watching, waiting. Big ones like this, they learn fast. They remember every mistake, every hesitation. Tonight, we don't make mistakes. Mark nodded, swallowing hard. I won't. I can't. Lisa's gaze flicked to him sharp. Good. Because hesitation out here, she cut off, crouching low, pointing to a subtle ripple near a cypress knee. Kills. The python's head rose slowly from the water, eyes gleaming black. Its coils beneath the surface moved with deliberate grace. Even in the dark, Mark could see the sheer size of it, muscles undulating like waves. Lisa steadied the rifle. Mark, stay calm. Watch the coils. Wait for my signal. Mark's heart pounded in his chest. I can do this. Think of Cole, Lisa said quietly, almost under her breath. Think of why you're still here. You're not just fighting for yourself anymore. The python hissed, a low, vibrating sound that cut through the night. Then it struck, lashing toward the boat. Now, Lisa shouted. Mark plunged the knife into the water where the snake's head had arched. It thrashed violently, but he held fast, driving the blade again and again into the thick muscle. The creature's sheer power shook the boat, and Mark could feel the strain in every tendon of his arms. Lisa fired several rounds, each shot cracking the air. The python recoiled, but didn't retreat. Its coils lashed out, one smashing against the boat's side with bone-jarring force. Watch the tail, Lisa warned, yanking another rope from the deck and looping it around the thick coil nearest her. She pulled hard, forcing the snake's body to twist. Mark gritted his teeth, stabbing again, driving the knife deep. The python hissed in fury, jerking violently, but the combination of rope and strikes kept it restrained, just barely. You've got to trust me, Lisa yelled over the chaos. You keep it pinned. I'll do the rest. Mark's arm screamed with effort, sweat mixed with blood, stinging his eyes. I'm trying, he shouted. Then try harder, Lisa barked. This isn't about fear anymore. This is about survival. The python's head whipped toward Mark, eyes burning like black holes. For a terrifying instant, it seemed to measure him, testing, calculating. Mark froze, fear twisting his stomach. Move, Lisa roared. Strike. Don't give it the chance. Mark swung the knife again, this time into a weaker section near the snake's shoulder. The python shrieked or hissed, the sound vibrating through Mark's chest. It thrashed violently, but Lisa tightened the rope, pinning it more securely. Mark realized something. It wasn't invincible. It could be weakened. And with each strike, it was... Lisa's voice cut through the chaos, sharp as a blade. Mark, cut the coil near the tail. Now, he lunged, slipping slightly on the wet deck, knife slicing through thick muscle and rope. The python screamed in fury, pulling back just enough for Mark to maintain his balance. Lisa yanked again, and together they forced the massive creature into a corner of the cove. Its body writhed, thrashing, but the ropes held, the knife struck true, and the snake began to weaken. Mark's arms burned, muscles trembling. He could barely breathe, could barely see through the sweat and darkness. But he gritted his teeth and struck again, over and over, guided by Lisa's steady commands. "You're doing it," she shouted. "Keep at it. Every strike counts." Finally, the python's coils slackened, its thrashing becoming slower, weaker. Mark's blade sank one last time into the thick muscle, and the snake let out a long hiss, shuddering in the water. Its eyes rolled back slightly, and the movement stilled. Mark collapsed to the deck, gasping, muscles screaming. He looked at Lisa, wide-eyed, chest heaving. "We did it," he whispered. Lisa didn't relax entirely. She kept one hand on the rope, one eye on the water, scanning for any sudden movement. Not done yet. Not until it's out of the water completely. Together, they dragged the python toward the shallows. The massive creature, over 30 feet long, thrashed one last time before going still. Its eyes, glossy black, stared up at them, lifeless now. Mark sank onto the deck, knife dropping from his hand. It's over." Lisa exhaled, her body relaxing for the first time in hours. "For now." She gave him a small, wry smile. "Not the first python I've taken down, and probably not the last. But you fought well tonight. You got Cole's courage in you after all." Mark shook his head, still staring at the lifeless monster. "I don't feel courageous. I feel exhausted, terrified, and guilty. I keep thinking of him. Cole, Lisa placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "Cole will be proud. You carried his story. You fought. That's all he wanted. And now, you've done something most people never could. You survived, and you ended a threat that would have taken more lives if it had been left alone." Mark's throat closed. I can't believe it's finally over." Lisa gave him a hard look. "It's never really over. Out here, the swamp keeps moving, keeps hiding monsters. But for tonight, yeah, it's over. And you proved you can fight. That counts." Mark nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. I did what he asked." Yes," Lisa interrupted gently. "You did, and you'll keep doing it. For Cole, for yourself, for anyone else who drives down this levee without knowing the danger beneath the water." The airboat hummed as they made their way back toward the levee road. The swamp lay silent, shadows stretching long across the water, reflecting in the pale moonlight. Mark's muscles ached, but there was a new strength in his chest, an awareness that he had survived and had fought and had honored his friend. Finally, he looked at Lisa, eyes wide. "Thank you for trusting me, for letting me be part of this." Lisa smiled faintly, eyes scanning the dark water. "You earned it. No one gets a free pass out here, Mark. You fought and you lived. That's all that matters." Mark looked back at the still form of the python in the water. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel something other than fear. Respect. Respect for the hunter, respect for the swamp, and respect for the creature they had faced together. And somewhere deep in his chest, he felt the faintest flicker of pride. Cole's voice echoed faintly in his mind. "You carry the story. You fight." "Yes," Mark whispered, gripping the knife once more. "I fought." The swamp had never seemed so quiet. Mark and Lisa drifted along the levee road in the airboat, the water eerily still under the early morning sun. The mist had lifted, revealing the vast expanse of flooded cypress and reeds. For the first time in days, Mark could see everything clearly, yet clarity brought little comfort. He sat hunched on the bench, staring at the water. The adrenaline had faded, leaving his muscles stiff and his mind raw. Cole's voice echoed relentlessly in his head. "You carry the story. You fight." Lisa's hands remained steady on the throttle, but she glanced at him from time to time, noting his tension. "You're quiet," she said softly. "I've been quiet too, but out here, that silence isn't peace, it's survival." Mark exhaled, barely audible. "I keep seeing him. Cole. The way he fought. The way he died. I keep thinking I could have done more." Lisa pulled the boat to a slow drift, letting the current carry them. "Mark, listen to me." She turned, eyes firm but not unkind. "You did everything you could. He knew the risk. He knew the swamp. He knew the python. And he trusted you to survive. That's not failure. That's honor." Mark shook his head, voice breaking. "It doesn't feel like honor. It feels like guilt. I watched him die, Lisa. I couldn't save him." Lisa's face softened. She reached across the small gap between the benches, resting a hand on his arm. "And that's human. He wouldn't want you to drown in guilt. You fought. You survived. That counts for more than you realize." Mark swallowed hard. "I don't feel like a survivor. I feel like a witness to a nightmare." Lisa nodded, understanding. "Survivor guilt's real. I've seen it plenty. But surviving doesn't make you weak. It means you're alive, and you carry forward. You carry stories, memories, lessons. Cole's death isn't meaningless because you lived. It's the opposite. You get a purpose." Mark's hands trembled, gripping Cole's knife in his lap. "I promised him I'd fight. I thought I understood what that meant. But now, it's heavier than I imagined." Lisa's eyes flicked to the water, scanning the subtle ripples. "Heavy doesn't mean wrong. It means you care. You remember. And that's why we do what we do. To make sure the swamp doesn't just take without consequence." Mark glanced up at her, finally meeting her gaze. "I still feel like that python could be out there somewhere. Lurking, waiting. What if there's another one? What if—" Lisa interrupted, voice calm but firm. "Then we fight again. And you'd fight smarter now. You survived the worst it could throw at you. You know what to watch for. You know what to do. That's progress, Mark. That's life." For a long moment, Mark let her words settle. The tension in his shoulders eased slightly. He glanced at the levee road, half submerged and streaked with mud. The memory of Cole's struggle surged up again, but instead of panic, it ignited a quiet determination. "You're right," he admitted finally. "I have to keep going. For him. For everyone who drives this road blind to what's out there." Lisa smiled faintly, a rare softness breaking through her usually stern demeanor. "That's the spirit. That's what Cole would have wanted. And it's what keeps people alive out here. Awareness, courage, and a willingness to act when others freeze." Mark nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. I never thought I'd be the one holding the knife, facing that thing. I always thought that would be someone else. Someone braver." Lisa shook her head. "Bravery isn't born. It's forged. You faced the python, Mark. You fought with everything you had, and you didn't back down. That's more bravery than most people will ever know." The airboat drifted deeper into the swamp, mist curling around cypress knees like ghostly fingers. For the first time, Mark allowed himself to notice the beauty of the swamp, the quiet, the subtle shimmer of sunlight on the water, the chorus of frogs and birds reclaiming the morning. Lisa glanced at him. It's easy to forget that there's life in this swamp, even after nights like last night. Death doesn't own the place. Life persists. Mark let out a shaky laugh, the first in days. "Life, yeah, I guess it does." They moved in silence for a while, the weight of the previous night lingering but tempered by the quiet of the morning. Mark's hands loosened around Cole's knife. He felt the knife's cold steel, not as a weapon alone, but as a reminder of the promise he carried. Lisa's voice broke the silence. "We'll need to report this. Authorities, state wildlife, and warn locals. That road isn't safe until people know what's out here. You ready for that?" Mark hesitated, then nodded. "I am. I have to. Cole's story, it has to reach them. People can't die blind like he did." Lisa gave him a approving nod. "Good. That's the next step. But first, we get out of this swamp alive. Then we tell the story right. Clear, honest, no sugarcoating. That's the only way to honor him, and everyone else who's ever faced this mess." Mark looked at her, feeling a spark of hope for the first time since that fatal night. "I could do that. I can tell it. I can make sure it counts." Lisa's eyes softened. "I know you can, and you will. That's why you're here. You survived, Mark. You're the one carrying the torch now." They continued along the levee road, the flooded waters reflecting the pale sky. Every ripple, every shadow seemed calmer than before. But Mark kept his senses sharp. He had learned to watch, to listen, to respect the swamp and the dangers lurking beneath the surface. Finally, the levee widened into an area where the road re-emerged fully from the flood. The airboat slowed, and Mark leaned back, letting himself exhale. The tension in his shoulders eased slightly, though the memories remained vivid. Lisa glanced at him, voice softer now. "You did well, Mark. Tonight, no, this whole ordeal, you've grown. You're stronger than you know. And Cole, he'd be proud." Mark swallowed hard, looking out over the water one last time. "I'll make sure his story gets told. I promise. Say, and I'll keep watching. For him. For everyone." Lisa nodded, satisfied. "Then let's get back. There's work to do. But remember this, Mark, survival isn't just about fighting monsters. It's about carrying forward what matters. And that's exactly what you're doing." Mark held the knife loosely in his hand, its weight no longer a burden but a symbol, a promise. He could feel the fire in his chest, small but steady, a reminder that even in the darkness, courage and life persisted. As the airboat cut through the mirrored water, the swamp seemed almost peaceful. But Mark knew better. The shadows remained, the coils beneath the surface waiting. And one day, someone else would have to face them. But for now, Mark and Lisa had survived. They had fought. They had honored Cole. And that, he realized, was enough. The swamp was quiet that morning, though quiet here never meant safe. The air smelled of wet earth and decaying leaves, sweet and heavy. Mist rose off the water in delicate ribbons, catching the pale sun. Mark sat on the levee road, legs dangling over the edge, watching the floodwaters stretch endlessly. Beside him, Lisa cleaned her rifle, methodical, efficient, but her gaze kept drifting toward the shadows of the swamp. She had always been like that, alert, prepared, never fully trusting the stillness. "You've changed," she said suddenly, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, measured, but not without warmth. Mark looked at her, eyebrows raised. "Changed? How?" "You're not the same guy who froze when the python attacked Cole. You're sharper now. You've seen fear, but you didn't let it paralyze you. You survived. You carried the fight to the end." Mark's throat tightened. He looked down at his hands, still callous from gripping knives and ropes. "I guess. I had to. For Cole. And for myself, I suppose." Lisa nodded, satisfied. "Good. That's what matters. Out here, experience is the only teacher. And you learn fast." Mark exhaled slowly, letting the tension in his shoulders ease. "It still feels unreal. Last week I was just a guy driving home, and now I'm sitting here alive because I fought a python. Because I survived. It doesn't feel like me." Lisa placed a hand on his shoulder. "It is you. Fear doesn't make you less. Courage doesn't make you more. It just reveals what's already there. And Mark, it was always there. You just didn't know until now." Mark turned his head toward her, eyes meeting hers. "Do you think Cole would have been proud?" Lisa's jaw tightened slightly, voice quiet. "He already was. He knew you'd make it through. He believed in you when you doubted yourself. That counts for more than anything else." Mark swallowed hard, staring at the distant horizon where the swamp met sky. Memories of Cole flooded in, his laughter, his stubbornness, the way he had thrown himself at danger without hesitation. Pain surged, but so did a strange warmth. He could almost feel Cole's presence beside him, encouraging, guiding. "I keep thinking about what comes next," Mark admitted. "There's still pythons out there. Big ones. Maybe bigger than the one we faced." Lisa exhaled slowly. "There are always more. That's the swamp. That's life. You don't fight them because you'll win forever. You fight because you can, because you must. And you've learned how. You've grown. That counts more than you realize." Mark nodded, letting her words sink in. "So, I keep watching. I keep fighting if I have to. But I don't. I don't let fear rule me." Lisa's lips curved into a rare, approving smile. "Exactly. That's what survival looks like. Not just living, but knowing when and how to act. And you've got the courage to act." For a long moment, They sat in silence, listening to the swamp come alive with morning. Birds called, frogs croaked, and somewhere beneath the mirrored surface, unseen creatures stirred. The python they had defeated last night had been massive, terrifying, but out here it was just one of many threats. The swamp was endless, patient, eternal. Mark glanced at Lisa. "I never thanked you properly," he said softly. "You trusted me, guided me, taught me. I don't think I could have survived without you." Lisa shook her head. "Don't thank me yet. You did the work. You faced your fear. I'll just help you see it through. That's all." Mark exhaled, letting some of the tension drain from him. "Still, I owe you. I owe Cole. I owe anyone who didn't make it." Lisa's gaze swept the swamp, eyes narrowing. "And that's why you're still here. To carry the story. To honor those who didn't survive. And maybe to keep a few more people alive along the way." Mark nodded, gripping Cole's knife again. "I will. I promise. I'll make sure people know what's out here. That they respect it and fight smart when they have to." Lisa stood, stretching slightly. "Then let's get back. The authorities, the report, the warnings, it all matters. But first, a hot shower and some coffee wouldn't hurt either." Mark chuckled, a short, shaky laugh. "Coffee sounds amazing right now. And maybe a bed that doesn't move with every ripple in the water." Lisa smiled faintly, eyes scanning the levee. "You've earned both." The airboat creaked and groaned as they climbed aboard, slowly making their way back toward the road. The sun had risen higher, casting gold across the swamp. Mist drifted lazily across the surface, giving the water an otherworldly glow. Mark leaned against the railing, letting his mind wander. The python had been massive, nearly unstoppable, but he had faced it. He had survived, and he had done so with Lisa's guidance, Cole's legacy, and his own determination driving him forward. "Do you ever get used to it?" he asked suddenly, nodding toward the swamp. "The fear, the danger, the monsters?" Lisa's eyes flicked to the mirrored water. "No, you don't get used to it, but you get stronger, smarter, and eventually it becomes part of you, part of why you survive. And you survived, Mark. That's the point." Mark exhaled slowly, letting the words sink in. For the first time since Cole's death, he allowed himself to feel something beyond fear and guilt, a quiet pride, tempered by sorrow but fueled by determination. The airboat turned the corner, Levee Road stretching into sight, now mostly visible above the floodwaters. Small signs of civilization appeared, broken fences, tire tracks, remnants of homes long abandoned to the swamp. The world felt strangely alive, resilient. Mark's hand brushed Cole's knife, a silent promise passing through him. He would continue the fight. He would honor his friend, and he would survive no matter what the swamp threw at him next. Lisa's voice broke through his reverie. "We're almost there. Just a few more minutes, and you can rest. But remember this, Mark, survival isn't the end. It's the beginning. And now you know how to begin again, stronger, smarter, braver." Mark nodded, eyes fixed on the horizon. "I know, and I will." The swamp stretched endlessly around them, serene yet hiding countless secrets beneath its mirrored surface. But for Mark, the terror of last week had faded into resolve. The python was gone, Cole's memory honored, and the weight of fear had been transformed into purpose. Mark glanced at Lisa, a silent understanding passing between them. This was more than survival. This was the start of something new, a life tempered by danger, courage, and the knowledge that even in the darkest shadows, one could fight, endure, and prevail. And as the airboat cut across the flooded Levee Road, carrying them back toward the world of dry land, Mark felt something he hadn't in days: hope. The swamp would always be there, waiting, patient, eternal. But Mark was ready, because now he was no longer just a survivor. He was a fighter,